Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz, your host here at Crimes Untold. So today we're going to be talking about the Farmville murders, or what he's known as the Horrorcore killer. So I briefly touched on this in my previous video, which dealt with horrorcore as well, or the liking of the horrorcore genre, which that's a big part of this case. So it's kind of like how things, you don't realize something can connect to another one until you start talking about it. And this one really connects to the other one, because mental health is an issue in this one as well. So 20-year-old Richard Samuel McCroskey was an aspiring horrorcore rapper who snapped and couldn't control himself. Richard filmed a video explaining that he snapped at the residence of where this took place, which is at 505 First Avenue. Richard was staying in this home with 4 rotting corpses. Mind you, this isn't even his house. The victims were 16-year-old Emma Niederbrock, 18-year-old Melanie Wells, 50-year-old Mark Niederbrock, and 53-year-old Dr. Deborah S. Kelly. So they were killed with either a ball-peen hammer or a wood-splitting maul. They were also bludgeoned to death with these items. Emma and Richard were friends online for about a year and would end up going to a horrorcore concert just a week prior to the murder. Melanie would be in attendance with them. She was friends with Emma. Mark and Deborah are Emma's parents. Mark and Deborah agreed to bring Richard, Emma, and Melanie to this horrorcore concert/festival in which Robert would fly to Farmville, Virginia on September 8th. But when he arrived, Emma wasn't too fond of how different he was in person versus how he was online. He didn't seem to be the same person he was online at all, which that can happen because, when you're hiding behind a screen or hiding behind a camera, like I am right now, because, to me, I'm just a figment of your imagination that posts videos online, but I'm actually, residing in the United States. This is not how, part of my personality shows on here, but you don't get to see me on a day by day. You don't get to see how weird I am at work or how I am as a person in person. You don't get to see that. You get to see who I am online, which is why influencers are the thing. This is exactly how Emma was with Richard. So it's during the concert, Emma was avoiding him, and it seemed like they were being driven apart. Richard was feeling rejected. So once they returned to the Niederbrock home on September 13th, everything seemed normal at first. Both girls would log into MySpace. Melanie would say she was going to be home soon. And sometime after the concert, Melanie's parents couldn't find their daughter. They would go to the Niederbrock home, but no one answered. Melanie's mother also would call Mark. Mark would go on to the home to check on the girls. When he was on the phone with Melanie's mom, he agreed that once he got into contact with them, he would call her once he heard anything or saw them. But he never called. She then would phone the police that she hadn't heard from Deborah and talked about her conversation with Mark. So she tried to contact Melanie and Emma, but heard nothing. The police would go to 505 First Avenue to assess this situation, and this is when Richard answered the door. Richard said that they were at the movies, so Kathleen, which is Melanie's mom, would, after the police visit, would call the home. Richard answered the phone. He would be asked where the girls are, and then he stated that he couldn't answer, that they couldn't answer the phone. So clearly this is after he killed them. So she then would phone the police yet again, and dispatch would tell her that if Melanie didn't call within the hour to call back. But Richard would call the police, and he complained about a noise in the basement. He gives his name as Sam, and the police would show up at the home to search. But they didn't see Melanie, Emma, Mark, or Deborah. Eventually, neighbors started smelling something that was kind of off-putting. Something that smelled like death or decay. Due to no one seeing Emma or Melanie for a few days, police would have ability to search without a warrant due to a minor being missing. This is called qualified immunity, in which basically this means the police have immunity in situations that arise when certain acts could violate statutory or constitutional rights and are given immunity from any repercussions due to them doing this for someone's well-being. So as long as they aren't acting within the means of their job in a hateful way, it's deemed that the police in this case were handling it actually with neglect, because they failed to see a lot of the red flags when they first entered the home. Because, The house smelled like decay. There was things askew all over the house that indicated something literally happened there. And nope, nope, nobody's here. Nothing smells bad. Nothing happened. So yet again, Kathleen called the police, and she repeatedly was calling the police about concerns about her missing daughter. During one of the calls, dispatch she voices her concern, and eventually, this is when police take action. So on September 18th, the police walk into 505 First Avenue. They uncover what was voiced as a slaughterhouse. How the initial police that walked this property didn't see any of this, I have no idea. There was 3 sets of remains that were in a downstairs bedroom, and 1 body was upstairs in a bedroom. Melanie, Deborah, and Emma were bludgeoned to death in their beds. It's believed that when Mark showed up after he was talking to Kathleen on the phone, that he was attacked from behind and killed. The floor underneath his body was destroyed and literally sopping wet with his blood. How the police did not know this, I have no idea, or not pay attention to this. Yeah. Mark and Deborah's bodies were then put in Emma's room. So this is so Richard could clean up the mess, or try and clean up the mess. Again, I can't believe police missed this, or any signs that the home had dead bodies in it, but whatever. That's their due diligence and their neglect. So at the scene, they can't find Richard. He's missing. This is because he stole Mark's car, but then crashed it because, he couldn't drive. So police would give him a summons for driving without a license and secured him a tow truck. So when the driver of the tow truck picked him up, he dropped him at a convenience store. Richard smelled like decay and rotting flesh. It was so bad that nobody could handle it. Nope. So once he's at the convenience store, he calls a cab to bring him to the airport, but the cab was pulled over because of speeding. Richard got out of the car and he was smoking a cigarette. Here come the police. So police come up, obviously ask about everything. They get a ticket, whatever. Richard is brought to the airport. But he can't fly out for 2 days because his ticket is for 2 days in the future. So he would have to sleep in baggage claim until his plane ride home. This is where he would be intercepted. So the police would find a piece of paper at the Niederbrock residence. Now, this piece of paper is the airport address, which ironically enough is where Richard is. So when they get to the airport, they then escort him out of the airport at 11:30 on September 19th. He was then brought to the police station for questioning and read his Miranda rights. He requested to have a lawyer present and invoked his right to remain silent, or remain silent. The police also would notice his clothing and how it was matted and gore. He hadn't changed or bathed since the murders he committed, so he literally just he reeked. He stank. He smelled nasty. So some didn't understand what happened. Some didn't understand how he could just sit there in filth. But yeah. Richard would take a deal and pled guilty and was given 4 life sentences in order to take the death penalty off the table. So it's believed that Richard acted on his feelings of hatred towards Emma due to his reaction to him and the attention Emma was giving another male. This is a completely plausible motive. But also, apparently the cab driver said that Richard explained he and Emma got into an argument after he saw a text exchange with Emma and another guy she met at the festival. She got angry because Richard was invading her privacy and he wanted to wait until Emma was asleep before he left. But then he killed her due to his jealousy and rage. And yeah, it's also believed that he suffers from antisocial personality disorder due to the way he was talking about Emma 2 days post the murder. He spoke about her very passionately after he killed her, and he was very charismatic to those around him. Even in his video he recorded at Emma's house, which was supposed to be his suicide note, or / video, he talks so eloquently and passionately about what is going to happen or what had happened, and he talks about paying consequences, and he ended up closing out the video with saying, "Fuck the world." So that, my friends, is the horrorcore killer, Richard, the asshole, yes, or the Farmville murders. I hope you guys learned something from this. Mental health needs to be taken seriously, and I'll see you guys in my next one.